My girlfriend ended our 8-year relationship and expected me to keep supporting her financially, but I cut her off and watched karma crush her world. Sup Reddit. I'm Sean, 32 male. Earlier this year, my girlfriend of 8 years nuked our entire relationship. 8 years. Gone. I was planning to marry this woman. Monica, 31 female. Didn't even have the decency to start a fight or give me some kind of buildup. Nope. She came home from her sister's place one Thursday evening, sat down on the couch we'd bought together 3 years ago, and hit me with, "I don't love you anymore. I haven't for a while." That was it. She said it the same way you'd tell someone you're switching to oat milk, like she'd already moved on months ago. I sat there like an idiot with my drink halfway to my mouth, trying to process what just happened. I asked her if I'd done something wrong, if there was another guy, if she wanted to try counseling, anything. She just shook her head with this bored expression and said no, I hadn't done anything wrong. She'd just outgrown the relationship and needed to find herself. I've never felt more blindsided in my entire life. Yeah, we weren't perfect, but we were good. Or so I thought. I loved this woman. I'd built my entire adult life around her. Hell, I'd been supporting her financially for 6 straight years after she decided corporate life wasn't fulfilling her soul and quit her marketing job. And I was fine with it because I loved her and genuinely believed we were building something together. Apparently, I was the only one who thought that. My best friend Brendan had warned me about a year ago when Monica started getting really into Instagram and posting these cryptic quotes about knowing your worth and not settling. He'd pulled me aside at a barbecue and said, "Bro, I'm just saying, keep your eyes open." I'd brushed him off, told him he was being paranoid. I wish I'd listened. So there I was, sitting across from this woman I'd spent years with, watching her act like she was doing me a favor by ending things. She was calm, almost relieved, like she'd been carrying around this decision for months, and was happy to finally drop the weight. I asked her one more time if this was really what she wanted, if there was anything I could do. She nodded and said, "Yeah, this is what I want. I need space to grow." I was paying for everything in her life, and she needed space to grow. At that point, I realized there was nothing left to say. I wasn't about to beg someone to stay if they didn't want to be there. That's not how I operate. So I told her straight up to pack a bag and go stay at her sister Kristen's place. I needed time to think, and I couldn't do it with her sitting there, acting like we'd just agreed to try a new restaurant. She didn't like that. At all. Her whole calm demeanor cracked, and she asked why she had to be the one to leave. Said it was her home, too. I reminded her that she was the one ending things, not me. Then I asked for her house key. That really set her off. She started going on about how I was being aggressive and controlling, but after some back and forth, she finally tossed the key on the table. Watching her pack was surreal. 8 years together, and she had a suitcase ready in 20 minutes. Before she left, she turned to me and said, "I hope you can be mature about this." I just stared at her. Then she walked out without another word. That night, I sat in the living room with Brendan on FaceTime. He didn't say I told you so, but I could see it in his face. "What are you gonna do?" he asked. I looked around at all her stuff everywhere. "I'm gonna take my life back," I said. Brendan raised his drink to the screen. "About time, brother." I didn't sleep much that night. Kept replaying everything, trying to figure out where it went wrong. I'd given her 8 years of my life, financial support, freedom to find herself without worrying about bills or rent, and somehow it still wasn't enough. The next morning, I woke up to an empty house. I knew I had to start making moves, but first I needed coffee, and then I needed a plan. Around noon, my phone rang. Monica. I almost didn't answer, but maybe she'd changed her mind. Maybe she wanted to actually talk like adults. So I picked up. "Hey," she said, casual as anything. I kept my voice neutral. "What's up?" "I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing," she said. Check in. Like she hadn't just nuked my entire life less than 24 hours ago. "You wanted to check in?" I repeated slowly. "Yeah. I know this is hard for you, but I think we can still be friends eventually." This woman had just ended an 8-year relationship and was already planning our friendship arc. I had to ask, "Are you actually sure about this? About ending things?" "Yeah," she said without hesitation. "This is what I need right now. For me." That's when I decided to start making some practical changes. "Okay," I said. "Then I need to handle some logistics." "What do you mean?" she asked, suddenly sounding less casual. I laid it out for her. I'd be removing her from my auto policy. Yeah, I had my truck, but the sedan she drove every day was titled to me. Canceling the phone plan that was under my name, and closing the joint checking account we shared where my paychecks went. This wasn't me being vindictive. It was just basic common sense. We weren't together anymore, so why would I keep paying for everything? What? Are you serious right now? Her voice went up about 3 octaves. Yeah, I'm serious. Why would I keep paying for your stuff when you just ended our relationship? Because you're not a child? She snapped. God, I knew you'd make this difficult. You're being so petty. It's not petty, I said, keeping my voice level. It's reality. You can't expect me to keep taking care of you financially when you've decided you don't want to be with me. She went off, started yelling about how I was trying to punish her for breaking up with me, how I was being vindictive and cruel, how she'd sacrificed so much for our relationship, and this was how I was treating her. I reminded her that her main sacrifice was quitting her job 6 years ago to find herself and then spending my money ever since. That didn't go over well. She called me a jerk and hung up. Over the next few days, I actually followed through. The first stop was the insurance company. Removed her from my policy. Then I went to the phone store and canceled her line. Then I drove to the bank and closed the joint account. I'd already moved direct deposit to my personal account, and the bank allowed either owner to close a joint account. Each step felt like reclaiming a piece of my life. My phone blew up with texts from her. Paragraphs about how heartless I was. How I was making her life impossible. One message said, "You're literally leaving me with nothing. How am I supposed to survive?" I didn't respond. Through my buddy Brendan, I found out she was staying with her sister Kristen and losing her mind. Kristen was apparently on Monica's side completely, telling her I was being abusive by cutting her off financially. According to Kristen, I was a narcissist for not continuing to support Monica after the breakup. The nerve these women got. Monica had started applying for jobs, but after 6 years out of the workforce, nobody was calling her back. Her resume was basically a crime scene. A week after the breakup, she called again, from Kristen's phone. I almost didn't answer but decided to get it over with. "I need to talk to you about the car," she said. "No hello. Straight to business. What about it? I need you to let me use it, just until I can get back on my feet and save up for my own." I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. "You want me to let you use my car? You have your truck," she said, like that made it reasonable. "You don't need both. I need to get to job interviews. Then take an Uber. Are you kidding me right now? Do you know how expensive that is?" "Not my problem," I said. "You wanted to end things. You wanted independence. Well, independence means you figure out your own transportation." "You're such a jerk," she hissed. "I can't believe I wasted 8 years with someone so heartless." "You didn't waste anything. You had a free ride for 6 of those years. Now the ride's over." She hung up on me. Again. By the end of that week, I'd cut every financial string that connected us. The car was mine. The phone was disconnected. The bank account was closed. Brendan came over that weekend. We sat on my back patio. "How you feeling?" he asked. I thought about it. "I feel free." He nodded. "Good. That's what you should feel. Now let's celebrate that." About 10 days after the breakup, Monica texted saying she needed to come get the rest of her stuff. I wasn't thrilled about seeing her again, but I wanted her belongings out of my house. So I agreed. Told her to come by on Saturday afternoon. She showed up at 2 with Kristen in tow for moral support. Kristen gave me this disgusted look the second I opened the door, like I was something stuck to her shoe. "Sean," she said coldly. I just nodded at her and stepped aside to let them in. I kept the door open and stayed in the living room so there wouldn't be any "he locked me out" drama. Monica walked past me without a word and headed straight to the bedroom. I heard drawers opening and closing. Kristen stayed in the living room, arms crossed, staring at me like she was my prison guard. "You know you're handling this really poorly," she said after a minute. "Am I?" "Yeah. Monica's really struggling right now, and you're just making it worse. She ended things, Kristen, not me. That doesn't mean you get to be cruel about it." I just stared at her. The mental gymnastics these two were doing could win gold medals. "I'm not being cruel. I'm just not funding her lifestyle anymore." "You're being a jerk," Kristen said. Then she walked toward the bedroom to help Monica pack. I stayed in the living room, scrolling on my phone, waiting for this to be over. After about half an hour, Monica came out pulling a suitcase and carrying my laptop under her arm. My laptop. "Whoa, what are you doing with that?" I asked, standing up. "I'm taking it," she said matter-of-factly. "I use it all the time for job applications." "That's mine. I bought it." "You have your work laptop," she countered. "You don't need this one. Doesn't matter if I need it or not. It's mine. Put it back." Kristen stepped between us. "Oh my God, Sean, just let her take the laptop. You're being ridiculous." "I'm being ridiculous?" I looked at Kristen, then back at Monica. "You're literally trying to steal my stuff and I'm the ridiculous one?" "It's not stealing," Monica said. her voice getting louder. We were together for 8 years. This stuff is basically shared property. No, it's not. I paid for it with my money. That makes it mine. That's when I noticed the suitcase looked way too full. I walked over and unzipped it before either of them could stop me. Sure enough, it was packed with stuff that wasn't hers. My wireless headphones. The nice set of kitchen knives I'd bought last year. My Nintendo Switch and games. A designer watch my parents had given me for my 30th birthday. Even some of my clothes. I started pulling things out one by one. Want to explain this? Monica's face turned red. Those are things I gave you. You gave me my own watch that my parents bought me? That's impressive. I'm talking about the other stuff. The headphones I bought on Amazon? The knives I got at Williams-Sonoma? My own gaming system? I held up a hoodie. My college hoodie from a school you didn't even go to? Kristen jumped in. She uses those things all the time. You're seriously going to fight over every little item? Yeah, Kristen, I am. Because they're not hers to take. Monica started crying. Right on cue. The waterworks started, and she went into this whole speech about how heartless I was being. How after 8 years together, I was nickel and diming her over a few items. How she couldn't believe I'd changed so much. I stood there holding my watch and my headphones feeling absolutely nothing. You can take your stuff, but everything else stays here. You're unbelievable, Kristen said. She's right. You have changed. The old Sean would never act like this. The old Sean was an idiot, I said. And that version's retired. Monica looked at Kristen with this dramatic, wounded expression, then back at me. I hope you're happy with yourself, she said through tears. I'm getting there, I replied. They spent another 20 minutes repacking the suitcase with only her actual belongings. The whole time, Kristen kept making snide comments under her breath about how petty I was being. When they finally left, Kristen turned back at the door. You know what? You deserve to be alone, she said. Then they were gone. I stood there for a minute, then started laughing. Brendan had been right. I should have done this years ago. That night, Monica sent me a novel of a text message. 5 paragraphs about how I'd shown my true colors. How I was vindictive. How she'd given me the best years of her life, and this was how I repaid her. I read the whole thing, then replied with, K, nothing else. Brendan thought it was hilarious when I showed him. Over the next few days, I boxed up the remaining stuff she'd left behind. Some random toiletries, a few books, a pair of shoes. I put it all in a box and left it in the garage. If she wanted it, she could coordinate with Brendan to pick it up when I wasn't home. I was done dealing with her face to face. Through the grapevine, I heard she'd been complaining to everyone who would listen about how I'd abused her by cutting her off, how I was making her life miserable. Kristen was apparently backing up every word, telling people I'd been financially controlling during our relationship and was now punishing her for leaving. The narrative they were spinning was impressive. They'd turned me into some kind of villain for the crime of not wanting to keep paying for my ex-girlfriend's life after she dumped me. But I didn't care. Let them tell whatever story they wanted. The people who actually knew me knew the truth, and that was enough. 2 weeks after the suitcase incident, my phone rang late on a Tuesday night. Unknown number. I stared at the screen for a minute, then picked up. Yeah, it was Monica. I need help, she said. Her voice was shaky, almost panicked. I stayed quiet for a few seconds. With what? I've applied to like 50 places and nothing and nobody's calling me back, she paused. I don't know what to do. That's rough, I said, keeping my tone neutral. But I don't know what you want me to do about it. You could help me, she said, her voice getting sharper. I gave up my career for you. For us. The least you could do is help me get back on my feet. There it was. You didn't give up your career for me, I said slowly. You quit your job 6 years ago because you said you couldn't be creative in a corporate environment. Those were your exact words. I quit because you said you'd support me. I did support you. For 6 years. While you figured out what you wanted to do with your life. So now you get to support yourself. She started crying, going on about how hard everything was. How her sister was pressuring her to find work and contribute to bills. How she was sleeping on Kristen's couch and had no money for anything. I have nothing right now, she sobbed. I'm sorry you're struggling, but this isn't my responsibility anymore. So that's it? Her voice went from crying to angry in a heartbeat. 8 years together, and you're just going to watch me suffer? You made this choice, Monica. Not me. You don't get to come back crying for help now. She started yelling then, calling me names, saying I'd never really loved her, that she couldn't believe she'd wasted 8 years with someone so heartless and selfish. I let her vent for about 30 seconds, then cut in. You done? Screw you, Sean, she hissed. Then she hung up. Over the next week, my phone was flooded with texts. They started emotional, full of regret and apologies. But when I didn't respond, her tone completely shifted. The messages became bitter. I was heartless, cruel, a narcissist, an abuser. She said I was ruining her life on purpose and that karma would come for me eventually. The irony about that. I showed them to Brendan over food one night. He read through them and just shook his head. Bro, this is psycho behavior. Yep. You gonna respond? Nope. Good man. Idal, through our mutual friend Mike, I started hearing more details about what was happening with Monica. Kristen had apparently given her an ultimatum. Find a job and start contributing to rent and bills within 3 weeks, or get out. Monica was spiraling, applying everywhere she could think of, but after 6 years out of the workforce, her resume was basically radioactive. Mike told me she'd had a complete breakdown at a friend's birthday party, started crying at the table about how she'd ruined her life and how unfair everything was. Her friend had apparently tried to comfort her, but Monica just kept going on about how I was destroying her future by cutting her off. The victim mentality was unreal. One evening, about 3 weeks after our last phone call, I was home watching a game when someone knocked on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I checked through the window first. It was her. She looked rough, hair messy, eyes puffy, wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt that looked like she'd been sleeping in it. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. What do you want? I need to talk to you, she said, voice trembling. Please. I stood there for a second, then stepped aside. She walked in and sat on the edge of the couch, hands shaking. I can't do this anymore, she said. I've tried everything, but I can't find work. Nobody will hire me. Kristen's about to kick me out. I have nowhere to go. I waited, knowing what was coming next. I made a mistake, Sean. A huge mistake. I thought I wanted something different, but I was wrong. I miss what we had. I miss you. I still love you. Her words just hung there. But instead of feeling anything, I just felt tired. You don't love me, I said. You love not having to work or worry about bills. That's not the same thing. That's not true, she insisted, tears starting. I really do miss you. Miss us. Monica, you told me you didn't love me anymore. You said you'd outgrown the relationship. You ended things. And now you want back in because reality hit you and you realized how good you had it. I can change, she said desperately. I'll get a job. I'll contribute. I'll do whatever you want. I stood up. I don't want anything from you. I'm done. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it. She started begging, saying she'd do anything to fix things, that she'd made a terrible mistake and deserved a second chance. But I wasn't interested. I'd given her 8 years. That was enough. You need to leave, I said, walking to the door and opening it. She sat there looking at me with tears streaming down her face. When she realized I wasn't changing my mind, she stood up and walked toward the door. As she passed me, she stopped. I hope you find someone who deserves you, she said quietly. Already working on it, I said. Then she left. After the door closed, I felt this massive weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time since the breakup, I felt like I'd truly closed that chapter. After that final conversation with Monica, I knew it was completely done. She'd come crawling back hoping to slide back into the comfortable life I'd provided. But I wasn't that guy anymore. A few days later, Brendan texted me saying Kristen had finally kicked Monica out. She'd blown past the deadline to find work and had been freeloading for over a month. Kristen had apparently given her some cash and told her to figure it out. I heard through Mike that Monica had found some part-time gig at a coffee shop, minimum wage plus tips. She was living in a studio apartment in the sketchy part of town. Mike said mutual friends had seen her looking rough. But here's the thing. I didn't feel bad. Not even a little. Around that same time, I started seeing someone new. Her name's Harper, and I met her through Brendan's girlfriend Rebecca at a casual get-together. At first, I wasn't sure if I was ready to date. The whole situation with Monica had left me pretty cynical about relationships. But Harper was different from the jump. She's 29, works as a civil engineer, owns her own condo, drives a car she bought herself. She's smart, funny, and actually has her life together. Being with Harper felt like breathing fresh air after being in a stuffy room for years. She had goals and ambitions. She wasn't looking for someone to fund her journey of self-discovery. When I told her about Monica and the whole breakup situation, she was shocked. You supported her for 6 years? She asked. Like fully supported her? Yep, everything. Harper shook her head. That's wild. I can't imagine not working. I'd lose my mind. That's because you're a functional adult, I said. She laughed. Fair point. Things with Harper moved at a healthy pace. No drama, just two people getting to know each other and seeing where it went. Brendan approved immediately. Bro, this one's a keeper. He wasn't wrong. Then, about 2 months into seeing Harper, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was a long message full of emotional rambling. I scrolled to the bottom and saw it was signed with Monica's name. She'd gotten a new phone number, apparently. The message was the same old song. She was struggling, barely making rent. She'd made a huge mistake leaving me. Could I please consider letting her move back in, just temporarily, until she got back on her feet? She'd even thrown in that she was happy I'd moved on with Harper, as if she wasn't trying to get back together in the same message. I showed it to Harper. We were having dinner at my place when it came through. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "Nothing. I'm not even responding." A few days later, I was grilling in the backyard with Harper when someone knocked on my front door. We weren't expecting anyone. I walked through the house and looked through the window. Monica. Of course. I opened the door but didn't step aside to let her in. "What are you doing here?" "I texted you," she said. "You didn't respond." That was intentional. She looked past me and saw Harper standing in the living room. Her expression shifted from desperate to bitter in about 2 seconds. "So that's her," she said coldly. "What do you want, Monica?" She looked back at me, eyes welling up with tears. "Right on schedule. I need to talk to you, privately. There's nothing private to discuss. Say what you need to say or leave." She glanced at Harper again, then back at me. "Fine. I need help. I can barely afford to live. My job doesn't pay enough. I'm behind on rent. I don't know what else to do. Get a second job. Figure it out. You can't be serious right now." "I'm completely serious." Her tears turned to anger. "You don't care at all, do you? After everything we went through together, you're just going to watch me struggle and do nothing? Monica, I'm not your boyfriend anymore. I'm not responsible for your life. You made that very clear when you ended things." She looked at Harper again. "So you've already replaced me." That was fast. "No, I moved on." Harper walked up beside me. "Look, Monica, I don't know you, but it sounds like you're trying to make your problems Sean's problems. That's not really fair." Monica's eyes went wide. "Are you serious right now? You've known him for like 5 minutes. You don't know anything about our relationship. I know he supported you for 6 years and you dumped him," Harper said calmly. "And now you're back because things didn't work out the way you planned." Monica looked between us, her face red. "You're both horrible people. You deserve each other." "Appreciate that," I said. Then I closed the door. Just closed it right in her face mid-rant. Harper and I stood there for a second listening to Monica yell something through the door. Then footsteps. Then nothing. "Well, that was fun," Harper said. "Welcome to my life." She smiled. "I'm not scared off that easily." That night, Brendan called laughing. Apparently, Monica had texted Kristen immediately after leaving my place. Kristen had then texted one of our mutual friends ranting about me and Harper. The story they were telling was that Harper and I had been having an affair the whole time, and that's why Monica had ended things. The new narrative was impressive, but I didn't care. My life was better than it had been in years. I had a woman who actually contributed to the relationship. Monica could tell whatever story she wanted. I was done playing a role in her narrative. About 3 months after that second confrontation at my house, I'd pretty much forgotten Monica existed. Life with Harper was great. We'd taken a trip to Colorado, met each other's families, and started talking about moving in together eventually. Brendan and his girlfriend Rebecca had become good friends with Harper. My life had completely turned around. But then one night, Brendan called with news. "Bro, you are not going to believe what happened to Monica." "I don't really care what happened to Monica," I said. "But I was curious. Just trust me. You want to hear this." Apparently, Monica had started dating someone new about a month after she showed up at my place that second time. Some guy named Adrian, who was all over her Instagram. Designer clothes, expensive watch collection, pictures in front of luxury cars. The whole 9 yards. She must have thought she'd hit the jackpot. Except Adrian wasn't who he claimed to be. Not even close. At first, everything looked perfect from the outside. He was showering her with gifts, taking her to expensive restaurants, flying her to Miami and Vegas for weekends. She was posting about it constantly. Kristen was hyping her up in the comments. But here's where it gets good. Adrian was completely broke. The designer clothes? Knockoffs or rented? The cars? Leased or borrowed from friends for photo ops? The trips? Funded by maxed out credit cards and personal loans. The watch collection? Fake as hell. The guy was running a full-scale scam operation. Brendan's girlfriend Rebecca had stayed loosely connected to Kristen, who apparently loved to brag about how well Monica was doing now. But then the story started to change. Adrian had started asking Monica for money. Small amounts at first. 100 here, 50 there. He'd spin some story about his money being tied up in investments or waiting for a big deal to close. Then it escalated. He convinced her to open a credit card in her name, told her they could use it together to build their future. She fell for it completely. Opened a card with a $10,000 limit and handed it over. Within 3 weeks, it was maxed out. He told her not to worry, that he'd pay it off once his deal closed. The deal never closed because there was no deal. Adrian was a professional mooch running game on desperate women looking for a provider, and Monica had painted a target on her back by posting constantly about wanting a high-value man to match her energy. But it gets worse. Adrian had friends. Sketchy friends who started coming around constantly, crashing at Monica's apartment, borrowing money, using her car, eating her food, treating her place like a halfway house. She tried to keep up with their lifestyle, thinking it would pay off eventually, but the debt just kept piling up. Then one day, Adrian ghosted her, just disappeared, phone disconnected, social media deleted, gone, left her with a maxed-out credit card, his friends still crashing at her apartment, and some very angry people looking for him. Turns out Adrian's friends weren't just freeloaders. They were the kind of people who loan money with serious interest attached. Very serious interest. And when Adrian vanished, they came looking for payment. Mike called me one night and told me what happened next. Apparently, 2 guys showed up at Monica's apartment looking for Adrian. When she said he'd left and she didn't know where he was, they told her that didn't matter. She'd been living with him, benefiting from the money. They considered her equally responsible. They told her she had 2 weeks to come up with $5,000 or there would be consequences. She panicked and called Kristen, who told her to call the police. But Monica was scared. These weren't the kind of guys you call the cops on without making things worse. She tried calling Adrian from different numbers, went to his last address, asked his friends where he went. Nobody knew anything, or they weren't telling. She was completely on her own holding the bag. When I heard all this, I felt a mix of things. Part of me felt bad because nobody deserves to be scammed or threatened. But another part of me couldn't help thinking this is exactly what happens when you spend your life looking for someone else to solve your problems. She'd wanted an easy life, someone to fund her lifestyle without her having to work for it. And she found exactly that with Adrian. Except she'd finally met someone who saw her the way she'd seen me, as a resource to be used. The karma was almost poetic, but it was not done. What happened next was even better. The situation with Adrian got worse before it got better. Way worse. According to Mike, Monica ended up having to sell most of her stuff to scrape together money for those guys Adrian owed. The designer bags Adrian had bought her? Turned out they were replicas worth maybe $50 each. The jewelry? Fake. Everything he'd given her was worthless. She sold her TV, her laptop, furniture, anything of value. She even had to pawn some stuff her parents had given her. Made about $3,000 total. She managed to negotiate with Adrian's friends to accept $3,000 upfront and payments on the rest. They agreed, but made it clear what would happen if she didn't keep up with payments. She had to pick up a second job. Started working doubles between the coffee shop and waiting tables at night. Her Instagram went from nightclubs to completely silent. Kristen had stopped posting supportive comments. Apparently, even she was getting tired of the constant crisis. But the real kicker? The credit card company sued her for the maxed-out balance Adrian had left her with. She tried to argue fraud, but her name was on the account, and she'd willingly given him access. Legally, it all fell on her. She ended up having to set up a payment plan that would take her years to pay off. A few months slid by after that. Enough time for the Adrian fallout to finish cratering and fade into background noise. Meanwhile, I was absolutely thriving. After months of dating, Harper and I decided to live together. She listed and sold her condo, and a few weeks later we closed on a place together and moved in. 50-50 partners. Joint account where we both contributed equally. Shared bills. Shared responsibilities. It was like experiencing what a real adult relationship was supposed to be for the first time. Brendan and Rebecca had gotten engaged. They'd asked Harper and me to be in the wedding party. My career was going well. Life was genuinely good. About 4 months after the Adrian situation imploded, I was at a sports bar with Brendan and some friends watching a game when someone tapped my shoulder. I turned around and there was Monica. "Sean," she said, "can we talk?" Brendan immediately stood up. "Nah, we're good." "It's fine," I said to Brendan. Then to Monica, "You've got 2 minutes." She looked around at my friends, then back at me. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. You were right about everything." "Okay," I said, not giving her anything. "I made so many mistakes. I just wanted you to know that I know that now." "Okay, is that it?" She looked frustrated. "That's all you have to say?" "What do you want me to say, Monica?" "I just thought you'd want to know that I realize what I lost." "I don't care what you realize," I said flatly. "You lost something good because you took it for granted. That's on you. I'm not interested in being your shoulder to cry on." I'm not asking for that, she said, voice rising. I'm just trying to apologize. Cool. Apology acknowledged. Anything else? She stood there for a second, looking like she wanted to say more. Then her eyes shifted past me, and I saw her expression change. I turned around, and Harper had walked in with Rebecca. They'd been out shopping and were meeting us for food. Harper came up and kissed me. Hey, babe. Then she looked at Monica. Oh, hi, Monica. Monica's whole demeanor shifted. Harper. Great. We were just finishing up, I said to Harper. Then back to Monica. Was there anything else? Yeah, actually, Monica said, that bitter edge creeping back into her voice. How long were you two together before you started dating? Just curious. Harper laughed. We met months after you guys broke up, but I'm sure you've already created whatever story makes you feel better. I'm sure Sean filled your head with all kinds of things about me. Actually, he barely talks about you at all, Harper said. You're not really relevant to our life. Monica's face turned red. You know what? You're perfect for each other. You're both cold jerks. We prefer the term having boundaries, Harper said. But sure, go with jerks if it helps. Brendan was trying not to laugh. Rebecca was grinning. Monica looked around at all of us. This was a mistake, she said. I should have known better than to expect anything from you. Probably, I agreed. You should probably also stop expecting things from people in general. That seems to be your core issue. Forget you, Sean. I hope you know you destroyed me. No, I said. You destroyed yourself. She stood there for another few seconds, eyes watering, clearly hoping for some kind of emotional reaction from me. But I was done. Take care of yourself, Monica, I said. She turned and walked out of the bar. Kristen was apparently waiting outside. Through the window, I could see them talking. Kristen gesturing wildly, Monica crying. Then they both got in Kristen's car and drove off. I sat back down at the table. Brendan raised his drink. Bro, you dodged a bullet. We spent the rest of the night eating and laughing and celebrating Brendan's engagement. I thought about where I'd been a year ago, sitting in an empty house wondering what I'd done wrong. And now look at me. New house. Amazing girlfriend. Actual happiness. All because I'd put myself first. So yeah, I'm good. And as for Monica, she made her choices. She'd have to live with them. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.